Alright, let's start playing. Oh, the frames! The frames! My eyes! My eyes! Whoa, cool. This is actually a pretty decent RPG. Elex 2 is the second entry to Piranha Bytes' return to form to their open world RPG roots. The first Elex has an interesting world and it was fun to explore, but it was brought down by the bad combat and just the overall jankiness of everything. Elex 2 looks kinda cool from the trailers. You get to fly with your jetpack now and combat seems smoother, so this might just be the one to return to form. Ah, fuck. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room and shoot it in the head. This video game is not optimized. Like, at all. I have an RTX 3060 Ti and a Ryzen 3800 XT, both of which I can use to run modern games at least high settings. My PC is above the recommended requirements for Elex 2 and it just refuses to push out the frames. The game can go up to 60 FPS in the field, but it mostly stays in the 20 to 30 FPS range, and sometimes even lower than that. If you're doing anything in towns, you're gonna be looking at a slideshow for a while. Changing the graphics settings doesn't seem to have much of an effect on the frame rate at all. It just looks like a slideshow, but now it looks worse. What happened here? The graphics are somewhat of an improvement from Elex 1. When the lighting hits right, it can look downright photorealistic, but the character models look off. The faces look a bit too smooth, like there's barely any texture on them. The lip sync surprisingly is pretty on point, at least it's miles better than Piranha Bytes' previous games, so that's a thumbs up. View distance is still not very good even at high settings, with shadows and objects popping in when close. So there are certainly some improvements to the graphics, but none of it warrants this kind of frame rate. What's worse is the game makes my PC all hot inside. I can run Cyberpunk 2077 and it would just be chillin', but not Elex 2. My PC gets all shy and blushed up when running this for some reason. Having an inconsistent frame rate really affects the gameplay, so this is a major issue. I would say to wait for a performance patch before playing, but I don't know anymore. Looking back at the footage, it would be a miracle if the devs can fix this. This might be a GTA 4 or Saints Row 2 PC port situation, but who knows, things might get better. The gameplay remains mostly the same as Elex 1. You have main quests that are too hard to do at the beginning, so you have to explore, go around the world to find side quests to level up first. Just like in Elex 1, this encourages players to go see what's out there, and it's good open world game design. The coldness system is now called destruction, but it works in the same way. You can choose dialogue options that either make you destructive or creative, which makes me think you can either be a psycho or an Italian classical painter from the 1500s. There are now 5 factions in the game. The Berserkers, Clerics, and Outlaws from the first game are still here, along with a new faction called the Morcons, who worship Satan pretty much, and the Alps are now joinable, so that's awesome. The jetpack is even better now that it can fly, and it's upgradable, so it can last longer in the air and it doesn't take forever to charge back up. Flying is fun, but you can't do it for very long unless you find all the fuel canisters to upgrade a jetpack's duration, and I wish it had infinite use from the beginning. You can say that it's for balance reasons while in combat, but the devs could make fuel usage for flying and air combat separate. That way they can get rid of the teleporters and we can just fly everywhere and truly be free, and we don't have to keep looking for teleporters anymore. It doesn't make sense logically speaking, but this video game, have fun, damn it. NPCs do this thing where they can get mad if you interrupt their conversation, and when you finish a quest for them, they can be found elsewhere doing something that shows the effect that quest had. Like when I did Scrappy's quest of gathering gas masks and workers, you can see him talking to them and see them move to their new work location. Little things like these really add to the immersion. Combat is way more playable than it is in Elex 1, and yeah, it's still jank. Again, I used a melee build, so I'll be focusing on that. You can do a light attack, heavy attack, dodge, and block. When you knock down an enemy, you can do a ground pound move. You can also parry an enemy's attack for a counter attack that takes out a lot of their health. Parry is a big risk, big reward kind of thing since telegraphing is still off. Enemy telegraphing is way too subtle most of the time, and it's also very inconsistent. Take this guy for example. He's going to do a shield bash, but you can't really tell when he's going to do it. He just looks like he's reacting to being hit. Then there's this dog dick hit. You can see that before it attacks, it shakes its head a bit, but the second time around it doesn't and I end up getting killed. They're these lurker shits that dive into the ground like they dive into assholes and jump out to hit you, but there's no sign whatsoever to let the players know where they're gonna pop up. Shouldn't there be like a little ground crumbling effect to show when and where they're gonna jump so I can at least have some time to prepare? Just like in Elex 1, you can't really react well because of the poor telegraphing, so you just gotta dodge roll after a hit or two. It's not all bad though. Combat overall is way less stiff, so dealing with gangbangs is a lot more manageable. I mean, you'll still get wombo comboed if you're not careful, but I don't dread going into every encounter at least. You gotta jetpack yourself into the air first and press attack to auto zoom into the enemy. It can get really disorienting sometimes. Anytime an airborne enemy moves, you have to zoom into them again and it repeats until you kill them. On top of that, you have to remember your jetpack can run out of fuel, so you gotta watch that fuel bar too. It can be overwhelming at times. It's one of those things I would love for them to polish on since air combat is cool, it's just not as fun as it sounds here. The quests are your standard piranha bytes affair of going to a place, talk to someone, or kill something, and you get a few ways to approach the objective, whether it's using skill checks or swinging your big sword around. It's all fun and good, but it feels really boring this time around, mainly with the companion quests. Usually you just get to a mission and do what you do to finish the mission, but there are many times where you just have to follow a dude somewhere, making you go at their pace instead of your own, and I didn't like that very much. It's just the same thing you've always done, but just slower now. Some of these missions go on for a while too, so you gotta get comfortable. The companion quests are the worst because they're all the same essentially. You go to a location, whack some dudes, and that's it. Just think of that, but do it like 20-30 times throughout the game, and man, I'm getting tired just thinking about it. Take Bully for example. Do you really need to see him get cucked out of his mission so many times to realize that he's being fucked with? Or Crony, do we really need to scan so many chips around the map? I'd rather have the devs make one decent sized quest for each companion than doing the same thing over and over again. These feel like Radiant quests, and that's not a good sign. Elex 1 had the same thing, but at least they're way shorter. There's a lot of fat that could have been trimmed down for a smoother experience. Also, all the women want Jax's dick. I ended up picking Kaya for my romance option, and every time I meet a female companion, they get jealous. Nasty's like, oh, you with her now, huh? I don't even care. And Naira, whom at this point I only known for 10 minutes, just says, oh, I see you with that woman, huh? Okay then. Like, bitch, you don't even know her. I don't even know you. I mean, I'm all about fulfilling fantasies in video games, but come on guys, let's be more realistic here. I want to work for that pussy before drowning in it. It's story time. If you don't want to be spoiled, go to this timestamp to skip. The story is basically the same as Elex 1, but with some different details. Not much to say really. Once again, you play as Jax, an ex-Alp commander turned from emo dude to normie. After defeating the hybrid at the end of the first game, Jax is tasked to prepare for the incoming alien invasion by uniting the three people, but over time, the people started conflicting with each other and forget about the aliens. How anyone can forget about that alien ring in the sky that you can see as soon as you look up is beyond me, but sure. After a while, Jax gave up on the preparations and left his wife Kaya and son Dex to go live in a hut in the middle of nowhere when aliens start ODSTing out of the sky and blows up his home. Jax gets chased by these alien dogs and gets infected by their scratch, putting him back to level 1. Jax falls into a ditch but gets rescued by Adam Charles Dawkins, the hybrid guy. Jax doesn't recognize Dawkins as the hybrid at first, but when he finds out, Dawkins explains that he's trying to form a new faction called the Sixth Power to fight the aliens, and he needs Jax's help. Dawkins also promised to cure Jax of his infection, so there's mutual interest in helping each other. Now Jax needs to go find allies for his quest to defeat the Skyans and bring peace back to the world. So yeah, it's the first game story, but now there are aliens. Nothing much happens in the main story until way later. Most of the story is just Jax helping people, gathering allies, and getting to the highest rank of the faction you chose. Eventually, your boy Dex just leaves the home base of Bastion to go to those alien former towers. Upon finding him, Dex tells Jax that Wardek, his Alp dad from the first game, helped him get this far. Jax then go to find Wardek to get some answers, and it turns out Dex is special because back when Jax was still an Alp, Dawkins injected him with some of his DNA, like he came inside him or something. This made Jax into a superhuman with great willpower, since Dawkins is basically immortal from all the Elex, which explains why he's so good at leading people. Also, this superhuman willpower let Jax gain control of the infection, so he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Jax then tracks Dawkins down and he explains what's actually happening with everything. Dawkins actually knew about the comet that hit Magellan years before it did, but he also found something called the Singularity. Dawkins concluded that the Singularity has something that can grant him immortality, evolve the human race, and other cool shit. Dawkins sent some scientists to an artificial wormhole, that ring thing in the sky, that he made to get to the Singularity faster. The scientists got to the Singularity to develop what we now know as Elex, and ready to send some samples back to Dawkins on a rocket. The rocket can't make it to Magellan on time, so the scientists steered it into the comet that was approaching the planet. So basically, Dawkins could have stopped the comet from hitting Magellan, but it was used to bring Elex onto the planet and kill millions of people. Damn. The Sky Ants are actually the scientists who stay by the Singularity and have transformed into weird purple dudes. They're invading now since Dawkins failed to prepare the planet for them. Having had enough of Dawkins' info dump, Jax tries to kill Dawkins via a Dragon Ball battle, but he teleports the fuck out of there, and Jax continues his attack on the aliens. At the final former, there's a force field that prevents anyone from going in, but Dax volunteers to shut it down by going into this creepy alien pod to override the AI because he's a superhuman, I guess. Jax goes back to the force field to find that it didn't make any difference. Dax calls via hologram to inform Jax that the only way to close the force field now is to shut down everything, including the creepy alien pod he's in, which will presumably kill him in the process. Left with no other choice, Jax lets Dex sacrifice himself to save the world. Goodbye, creepy face child. Never forgetty, Mom Spaghetti. Jax goes into the former to find this changeling thing, who's one of the scientists sent up to the Singularity. Apparently this guy's an elemental that can control the Singularity somehow. Also, Jax is an elemental too since Dawkins injected him with his jizz, but his powers are limited because Dawkins used his special DNA key to lock his powers away. The Sky Ants want to bring the Singularity to Magellan, but that's gonna kill even more people, and Jax can't have that, so he kills the changeling. A new hole pops up in the sky, he does a long monologue which basically says we're all fucked and shit's changing, and yeah, that's it, the end. You get to talk to people afterwards, see how they're doing, and it looks like Dex is not completely dead. You get an infinite jetpack to fly all over the place. Yeah, not much else to say. The story this time around is so boring. It's mostly the same as Elex 1 with the uniting of the factions for a common cause, but now with aliens. It's not told in an interesting way with a lot of story conveyed through info dumps and exposition with not a lot being shown. Like, there are these cool ideas about superhumans and humans turning into aliens, but you just get two dudes standing next to each other and talking about it. I just can't help but think that wouldn't it be more interesting to show it happening? You know, take advantage of video games as a medium. You can say that it's because of the budget, but they had the time to put in all these shitty companion quests that feel like Skyrim Radiant quests, but not the cool alien shit. That doesn't make sense. The ending is just Elex 1 again, but with an extra hole in the sky for sequel bait. This feels lazy and I'm not a fan. Again, the world is more interesting than the story itself. I just wish it was presented in a better way. Elex 2 has problems. Big problems. Performance on PC is horrible with frame rates ranging from 20 to 60 and even lower at times. The environments look great at times, but the view distance is inconsistent and the character models look weird. Combat has been improved, feeling way smoother to control, but still has its problems. Exploration is the best part, with the jetpack being upgradable now and you can fly. The story feels lazy in the way it was presented, and some quests are boring to play through. Elex 2 could be the Piranha Bytes game I would play the most if they actually optimize the game and trim off the fat. The frame rate is so bad that it affects every component around it. Like, I worry for the health of my eyeballs while playing this game. This is a decent RPG if you can get over the frame rate. It's very replayable because of the factions you can choose. I finished Elex 2 in about 24.5 hours. It's a bit too long since the quests feel very repetitive. The devs could have taken a lot of boring stuff out and balanced the game for shorter but smoother playthroughs. Overall, it's okay, but it's broken right now. Well, here's hoping Elex 3 is better, because it's gonna happen. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next video. Later.